morning. Okay. All right, we can start in Book 1. Usual things that you've been seeing from the other departments. Just by way of information, the administration department is made up of 5 different divisions. That includes emergency management, facilities, multimedia, community and human services, and economic development. And 2 of those divisions I want to point out are primarily funded by interfund charges, which means we charge the rest of the departments a certain amount based on their need. That's facilities and multimedia to create that budget. So there's formulas that finance comes up with to ensure that those 2 divisions are funded by the other departments. Going through our list of accomplishments and goals, we have listed those for you within each division. Each division works very hard. They have some very specific performance measures that we are looking at to ensure that, basically our residents are getting their money's worth, if you will, from the work that the divisions do. In emergency management, I would say just generally overall, our goals and objectives there are primarily around resident and citizen contact. We know that emergency preparedness is the most effective when we can kind of have that one-on-one contact or that community contact overall to ensure that our residents are going to be safe in the event of, which we hope doesn't happen, but we do want to ensure that we are helping our residents help themselves if we do end up in a situation where we have an emergency or disaster. In community and human services, we have expanded that division over the last few years, which has been very positive for our residents as well, not just in the area of the human services and working with and giving a hand up to those that need it from us, but also in some of those other areas with our neighborhood programs and the addition of and the expansion of National Night Out, community picnics, Civics Academy, and those kinds of things. Our staff worked really hard to rework the community matching grant so it was more accessible and less restrictive. So our community has more access to some of those funds to do improvements in their areas. Very happy about all of the work that they have done.
Councilmember Brown?
Yeah, on the streamlined process for interpretation services, what does that look like?
Well, what we have, there was a bill that came down from the legislature, I believe in the last session, regarding that cities, jurisdictions are required to have a language access plan. So what we have, and that's something that our Community and Human Services is taking on quite aggressively to ensure that we have access to those non-English speakers in different ways, whether it's translation of materials, ensuring that all of our staff is trained on the use of our interpretation lines, all of those kinds of things. So it's getting ourselves in line with the new legislation on language access.
Yes.
And that mandate came with a funding stream, right?
Oh,
now
gosh.
Okay,
I see what you did there.
You're going this morning.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. So we have a lot of things in place already. Our departments and divisions have been providing translation, interpretation, all of those kinds of things for a number of years. It just kind of needs to be codified, solidified, and probably centralized in certain ways so that we can ensure that our non-English speakers have access to services as well. Oh, and I would say also to add to that, Councilmember Brown, emergency management is taking that on very seriously too. Those are kind of the 2 areas where we really need to ensure that we have, Economic development, you hear from our division a lot. We have done a lot with that division over the last few years, and something that has really been stood up, strengthened, and the strategic plan has been immensely helpful in the efforts that we are making, as well as consolidating some services, adding some FTEs to that group to really continue to move the needle on our business and economic environment here in Auburn. I think we've seen very positive results from all of those things, whether it's from moving the tourism and the BIA, adding real estate services, and now with the FTE on board as well. We just continue to see a lot of positive results there. And also, it's one thing that I think we really appreciate, especially about the philosophy of our finance department, and Shelley specifically, is just ensuring that we don't get out ahead of our skis. We have some positive economic indicators out there in some ways, and we have since we've been coming out of the recession, but Shelley ensures that we are being smart with those dollars and saving where we need to and spending where we need to. So we'll continue to do that overall. And then in Book 2, if you want, the facilities and multimedia goals and objectives are in there as well. Facilities, we've added, and I'll talk about them a little bit later on. Let's see.
Page 19 is the facilities.
19 in Book 2. Fund 505. Our staff and facilities is very good at prioritizing projects, and I think one thing that I have seen over the years with the current leadership in facilities is the as much as possible not doing deferred maintenance on our facilities. That has decreased cost, decreased emergencies. We don't run into a lot of those things that we used to overall, where we have, a pipe burst at a facility that requires emergency response and very, very expensive repairs. And also, again, kind of compliments to Shelley and her staff, ensuring that we do have a contingency fund that is very well funded to deal with those if needed. We haven't had a lot of those, so our contingency fund is there for us if we need it, but we don't touch it a lot. But when we do have big things coming up that you'll hear about, we can either fund those in contingency or use the real estate excise tax.
Councilmember Troutman.
Dina, I thought that the senior center had funds to redo their wood floors, recoating their wood floors.
There's two things going on. Yeah, one is the one that you all approved just recently is for the kitchen, and the floor in the kitchen has been failing for a while. It has essentially completely failed. Upon that failure, they found quite a number of things that they were having. Water seepage and all of those kinds of things that need to be repaired. So that is what is being done right now. And yes, the floor in the main building, that is what that rent is going to, and that won't happen until next year, I believe. Where it's going to happen.
Thank you.
And then multimedia, as you know, is involved with basically all of the things that you see go out to the public, runs through our multimedia and our communications division. That is where our print shop resides. That is where our mailing services reside. That is where our video services reside, graphic design, all of our branding and marketing happens there, as well as our public relations, emergency communications, all of those things. We really have not made a ton of changes with that budget, just with the exception of we are in the process of rebuilding our website, our publicly facing website, and that should be released later this year as well. And those are costs that are shared between IT and multimedia for those services. But in multimedia, our biggest expense items are postage and printing. So we do as much as we can to try to reduce those things and save costs there, which our staff is very amenable to. We're consistently asking the question, does this need to be printed? And if it does it need to be in color? Can we go double-sided? So it's a constant kind of negotiation throughout the year with our multimedia division.
Councilmember West?
You have 3.6 FTEs in that department. Who's the 0.6?
It's our mail and print shop gal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
She's just part-time. Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Troutman?
On page 32, on your goals for 2019 and 20, use website RSS. What's that?
Where are we?
In the middle?
32, it's the second goal for 2019-2020.
The new website.
RSS function.
RSS function. What is that?
RSS is syndicated service, so it's a way for us to, if you post something on the website, you can push it out to multiple channels. And so it's kind of a technical function in order to syndicate information that comes into the website, and then it can go out to different functions, whether it's social media, RSS feed readers, all of those kinds of things.
Okay.
That makes sense? Yeah. Okay. All right. Going specifically to the 1920 changes and highlights that were, can we go back?
Go back.
There we go. So I'll just kind of go down this list with you as well. The Hotel-Motel Tax, you're going to see a revenue increase, and we have seen that our hotel stays are up, and they have been for a while, and we're really happy about that. And just by way of information, the Hotel-Motel Tax is a tax that all of our hotels in the city charge an extra tax to people that stay in those rooms, and that money goes into what we call the LTAC fund, and that essentially funds tourism. And
What page is that?
that is on
Page 4.
book 2, page 3, according to the slide.
And page 4 is at the fund budget page.
And that is a trend that we're really going to enjoy. As you know, we have 3 more hotels coming online in the next few years, so we will continue to increase our efforts there on the tourism side to tell people to come and visit us and stay in our hotels and buy our food and purchase gas and pay money for really neat things and come to our festivals and all that good stuff. In book 2, page 9, one shift that we are looking at, again, this falls to the creativity of our staff and community and human services. Several of our surrounding cities, Kent and Renton specifically, as well as some others, have used CDBG funding to fund a part-time housing repair program person. And that is a person that we would have on staff on a part-time basis that would deal with our minor housing repairs. And what you will hear from our community services staff is they wish they could do more. We have money to do more, but small jobs like fixing a porch or repairing a small area on a kitchen floor where water has leaked, all of those things, it's very difficult to find a contractor to do that. So we have waiting lists that are very long that make us very sad, and we would like to be able to do more project more efficiently, and this is one way that we would do it. It would essentially be cost neutral to the city in that it is a position that can and would be funded by CDBG. Of note would be not only would it fund the position, It would fund a vehicle, it would fund the tools, it would fund all of those things. So that is something that we are going to ask for. Of course, it needs to be captured in the budget, but it's kind of passed through things where CDBG would fund those, fund that position for us. So we're working with HR on defining the position. We're working with legal to make sure we're doing everything that needs to be done so that we are not exposing ourselves to any sort of liability.
Councilmember Trout-Manuel.
Dina, what are we talking about? How much should be put in a budget like that?
I would have to say to be determined. Joy and her staff are working with the other cities on what they have made the ask for from CDBG on funding that position. The other thing that is they're not looking at implementing that probably until 2020. So we'll probably take next year as we spend down our current CDB budget and go into the next budget cycle.
With you saying there's a waiting list, I could see this turning out to be a full-time position for this person.
What we hear from Kent and Renton is that they're good. Both of their positions are part-time, and they're able to really kind of knock out all of those things. There's still, to do a housing repair project is still kind of a slow process just because of the documentation that's required because it's federally funded. So, people have to apply, they need to be accepted, we need to get the paperwork done, we need to work with our planning and building and permitting staff to make sure that all of those things are checked off. And so we've done a lot up to this point to streamline as much as we can the process, to do as many as we can, but it's still, they're not going to be super duper fast. They're just going to be able to do a lot more.
Page 515 of Book 2 also gives you the decision package and has the budget included in there. Councilmember Wicks.
I really support this concept. The people that are asking for assistance where it's appropriate that we can provide it after we've gone through all those steps are many times very, very needy, and then waiting another 2 or 3 weeks while it's put out the bid or we find somebody is something that we can't control. And so that if we can get someone who, I think that's a great move.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? Okay, moving down to the BIA, the Business Improvement Area. Again, by way of information, this is another assessment that is paid by our downtown businesses. And that is something that was started, I believe, back in the 80s. And it was decided that all of the downtown businesses would pay an extra assessment on top of their business licensing fee, and that fund would go towards downtown improvements. It's gone through many iterations over the years as far as funding the Auburn Downtown Association, where there was an executive director and all of these other things, where now it has been decided this is another function that we move under economic development, and Doug has done a really great job of standing up that BIA board and ensuring that the monies and the budgets are really under the control of the BIA board. They've decided not to have an executive director at the ADA level, but sort of work on those functions internally. They have some very energized board members with some of our newer businesses, and some of the older businesses that kind of fell off have become re-engaged as well in the BIA and the Auburn Downtown Association. And so again, that would be a continuation of service levels that we're looking at there based on the funding that is available. One nice touch, I think, that the current BIA did is there is a specific drawn boundary, because that's just what you have to do if you're going to charge an assessment, to say if you're inside this thing, this is what we've defined as the BIA boundary, you must pay in. Well, there's businesses kind of on the edge of that boundary, and if they want to pay a small fee, they too can kind of receive the benefits of the Auburn Downtown Association events and all of those kind of other things, and participate pretty much kind of as a full member, but on a voluntary basis. So that's kind of been a nice addition, I think. Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Wales.
Sorry.
Then under professional services, it's got listed 44,000. Was that for the executive person that they're not doing? And so that money will be rolled over into, that really gives them quite a bit of money, or substantially more money to work with if they don't have to do the executive.
Right,
That's
and
great.
some of the decisions that are coming forward have to do with some market dollars. Also, if they do want to host a big event, maybe they'll contract with an event planner to take that kind of stuff over, but it's not that ongoing. Yeah.
Councilmember Trump.
So on that same page, on your communication for 19 and 2020, on 19 it has minus $1,600, and on 2020 they have zero. What are they planning on doing that?
Communication, I believe, isn't that just what we pay for cell phones and data and all of that kind of thing? So since we don't have a need for computers, and let me look at that.
It's a reduction from the 2018 budget, and they're not budgeting anything for communication in 2019 or 2020.
Looks like they've moved it into advertising. Yeah.
So it's just a reduction.
Okay, thank you.
So they
Councilmember
must have
Wales.
also gotten rid of their office?
Yes.
That's great. I mean, they're really putting the money where they're going to get something direct for those businesses, which really makes it easier to recruit people to be part of it.
Right.
That's great. Yeah.
Okay, moving into facilities. We did submit a number of decision packages related to facilities. The majority of the projects will be funded through real estate size tax, which is a very good thing. So, I don't know how much detail you need on that. The one I will sort of focus on, just because it's not very clear. Obviously, we have the Arts and Culture Center that's going to need a new roof. And timeline for these projects, I will have to double back on that. Most of these will probably be end of 19 and into 20 to get a lot of these done. Justice Center needs a new roof. City Hall needs a new roof. A lot of roofing projects. The Js4 Upgrade. I'm disappointed that Councilmember Pelosi cannot be here, because what this is this allows the City Hall HVAC system to finally be put onto our into the computerized automated system. So Councilmember Pelosi will no longer need to wear a scarf during meetings, things like that. So Js4, it's the software that are in the computer that, and this is the last of the upgrades in this building that was had not been done. So this will allow the entire heating and cooling system in this building to be able to be adjusted.
The entire city.
What's that?
I think it's for the entire city.
It does. Everything else in the entire city is on this new system, and the system that this is on is clearly end of life, and everything is manual, and only certain people can adjust it, and and that's why we see Councilmember Pelosi wearing a glove and a scarf. And then the lighting, painting, and siding will be partially funded by REIT. And this was the M&O facility? Sorry, should have been. Yeah.
Is that the lighting?
Councilmember Troutman.
I apologize. I'm thinking out loud. Is that you said the lighting at the teen center, is that included here? Is there lighting done? Is it just at the teen center?
At the teen center? Yes, that is switching it over to LEDs, if memory serves. Darryl, is that correct?
Yeah, they're taking out the old fluorescents and changing to LEDs.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Wales.
A lot of roof activity. Do we have a flat roof here and a flat roof at the Justice Center? Are these all flat roofs? So when we did the remodel of the Justice Center in '05, I mean, this roof is not lasting very long. That's 13 years? I mean, what's the average lifespan of a roof?
Oh,
I don't know. But maybe we should look at
30 years.
flat roofs that are sloped.
design flaw, exactly, yes.
Or maybe we're building them flat so that we can put in solar panels or something, but we seem to be doing a lot of
Yes.
roofs.
You know, it was a grocery store before, so.
Councilmember DeCoursey.
It depends upon the materials you use for the roofing. So if you have a built-up roof, which is like a modified bitumen roof and stuff, you know, your life cycle could be 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
If you have a single-ply membrane, which is a much longer life product, it could be 20 or 30 years. So it just depends what's up there now
Yeah.
and what condition it's in. So, and the weather can really play havoc on it and really, you know, shorten the lifespan of roofing.
I think we need to look at,
You know.
Councilmember Wales.
I think we need to look at the, when we do some more specifications as we move forward on the life expectancy or whatever of some of these roofs. They're getting so that we're going to be looking at these roofs and roads. Yeah. Yeah.
Councilmember DeCoursey.
Probably haven't, but have we determined, you know, what materials we are going to use on these roof replacements, or what it might look like? I think that might be an exploration we might want to look at, is, you know, what materials would give us the best benefit for the best dollar. Although we may be spending a little bit more up front, we may get longer life cycles out of it with a different material.
Okay. Lisa's pretty good about determining those items, too.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to multimedia, to page 31. Again, this is an interfund division, which all of our city departments utilizes the services of multimedia internally. So there is a formula that is used based on the number of requests, size of department, the cost for requests, all of that kind of thing. Shelley's department does a really good job of coming up with a formula that's equitable to all of the departments. I do remember years ago it used to just be based on FTEs, which means that the police department had to pay the most into multimedia but was not a very frequent user. And so Shelley's staff has worked hard to kind of create a funding structure there, the interdepartment funding structure, to make sure that print and mail and design services and all of those things that we do in multimedia are, you know, costed out correctly. Okay, now we can move on to the next slide. The last thing in admin, probably the most significant budgetary ask that we're making is twofold. One is, well, we've moved a budget item from the mayor council budget into my budget, our community health care
This is
consultant.
book one, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Book 1, page 17. That is Pat Bailey and her work. That was just simply a movement of those funds from mayor council into the admin budget. And then 2 decision packages, one relating to marketing and branding campaign out of economic development. And that is kind of the continuation of the strategic plan that we have been working through. Doug and his staff, as well as working with our local businesses, have been involved with a very active marketing branding campaign. Right now it's focused on the Buy Local program that many of you have been introduced to, and we will continue that into the 19-20 budget cycle. The Port of Seattle matching grant, that is kind of a continuation, but it does require a small match from the city. The Port of Seattle has been allocating $65,000 a year to the city of Auburn for economic development services. We are funding the incubator, some of the IPZ, and some other functions around branding and marketing for economic development and business attraction with that fund. And lastly, what we are, as we continue our response to homelessness, what we have decided as staff is to essentially consolidate all of the things that we have been doing. And some of those things are the obvious things with the homeless, the day shelter and the overnight shelter that we have been helping to fund along with Valley Cities and the food bank. But there are other things that we kind of continue to address sort of on a piecemeal basis. So we want to make sure to consolidate all of those things, and it was decided it would kind of sit under administration where those dollars would reside. And encampment cleanup is one that has been a pull on resources between maintenance and operations, the Parks Department, planning with code enforcement, and economic development with our real estate services. So all of our those four divisions specifically have historically had some sort of funding for cleanup, but those have not been, I just say that it's increased with the encampment issues that we have been kind of dealing with.
Page 268 is the program improvement.
Which book?
This is the
Book one.
small book.
Thank you.
So, as we continue to sort of stand up services and require a more, I think, dedicated response to the homelessness issue within our city, as well as possible partnerships with other regional efforts, perhaps around affordable housing, homelessness response, homelessness prevention. So we are asking the City Council for about $500,000 in that line item to consolidate those services. It's sort of been a work in progress to really dial down what the funding need is going to be. In 2017, kind of towards the end of 2017, is where we were able to stand up our day resource center and our overnight sheltering on a more permanent basis. That has continued to expand. We have assisted with getting some funding from the county and are working on getting some funding from the state for both Valley Cities and the food bank to continue that operation. But we still have the need to keep that funded, as well as work through the budgetary challenges around encampment cleanups and response and all of those kinds of things.
Councilmember Troutman.
I was under the understanding that we were only going to be there for a short time because Valley City would like that property back.
Valley Cities, what we originally discussed was probably about a year to 18 months, possibly 2 years. They don't have any use for that property right now. They have another parcel of property on their campus where the Blockables project is going to be constructed, which will be about 11 units of modular housing that we were able to assist with getting some capital funds for them through the state legislature last year.
Well, I can't just, are we looking at a long term of finding a facility somewhere else? And when are we going to start doing that?
It's in progress, and that's one of those things that will require a partnership. Again, that's not something that we would necessarily, I think we would fund some sort of operation that would be more on a permanent basis, but those are ongoing conversations with service providers, with other funders, with philanthropy, with business, with state, federal funding, all of those kinds of things. And so, yes, I mean, that has been ongoing.
Councilmember Wales.
Am I correct in assuming, I have about 3 questions. Okay, thanks. Am I correct in assuming that this $500,000 really isn't all new money, in that some of it we are currently spending, like for the Ray of Hope and for some other things? So it's maybe not as large of a new request as it appears.
Very well put, yes.
Okay. Then, and I like, this is a statement out of question, so it's not my second one. I like the idea of consolidating things and pulling it together, because I think that then we can be more effective in how we administer this. What I would like to see is it spelled out a little bit more, and it doesn't have to be to the penny or to the 100 or to the 1,000. But I would like to see how much you're anticipating for some of these, so that we can see the improvements, the specific or general improvements that we're seeing for the 500,000 that's not all new money.
Okay.
And the other thing is, I feel that this is an answer to a real community need. And by consolidating it, we can do a more thorough approach. I would like to also see in this how many people you plan to serve. And again, within 5 or 10 or whatever you figure out your error is. And then along the same line, I'd like to see a spread of what we're spending on the blue ribbon, whatever, and how many people we're actually serving. To me, that is a little bit, I mean, I am concerned about people learning English, and I am concerned about people learning how to cook and how to eat healthy. But to me, this is a life or death priority. And so if we're looking for trade-offs or whatever, I'd kind of like to have that kind of information.
Got it.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any questions?
Okay, that's it for me, right?